All right, folks, as people are filing in here, if you are here for AI office hours, it is that time again, and you are in the right place. If we could move over to the next slide just really quickly. I want to make sure everybody can hear me before I introduce everybody. So if you could just pop open the chat and say hello. But I want to give you a better question. So I want to draw your attention to Stephen Hicks's image there. See how the puppy's looking at him? Here's what I want you to put in. Is the puppy looking at him because he loves him? Or is the puppy looking at him because he's wondering if he's lunch? So love or lunch. Put love or lunch in there.
That's a good one.
Eli.
I like that. That's Poe. That's
Oh
the
no,
Poe
that's
dog.
Poe. That
That's
is Poe
Poe.
dog. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I saw the brown and I thought Eli.
Yep, we are seeing
Yeah,
people
starving. Okay, starving. Attention. Okay.
Yeah,
this
that's
is
Poe.
good. All right, we're seeing people giving their very good. Thanks, everybody. So my name's Jason Claus. I am the Director of Marketing here at Endsight, and I am joined by the dream team to talk about artificial intelligence today. Most of you already know Michelle. Michelle leads our development organization and is a Endsight long-timer. She's also one of my favorite people and a dear friend. So Michelle, thank you for making time.
Happy to be here.
You guys are in for a treat because you have not met Eugene yet, I don't think, or those of you that have already know what I'm about to say. This guy is crazy smart. So Eugene Motisko works on Michelle's team. He's one of our Power Platform developers, and he is one of our lead artificial intelligence experts here at Endsight. And so he'll be leading the training piece of the prompting piece for us today. And you can't talk about artificial intelligence and not include the venerable and intelligent and charming Mr. Stephen Hicks. He's going to be sharing a little bit about some of the things he's been seeing recently and items that we need to be paying attention to as we look to implement artificial intelligence technology in our organization. So Michelle,
I could talk to AI without Steve.
Mean but fair.
I could do that.
That's right, but then you'd have to talk, and we all know how much you dislike that. Right?
That's a good point. All right, fine, Steve, you're on spotlight.
All right. So moving on to the next slide. We're Endsight. There's some names that I'm seeing popping in here that don't look familiar to me, which leads me to believe that maybe you're part of our community and not an Endsight client. Our brief commercial is this: we believe that a rising tide lifts all boats, and putting out good educational content around things like AI and cybersecurity and all the other things that we create content, we believe that that is the best way to serve our purpose to help others thrive. Those medallions over there on the right, the blue medallions, are our core values. That is, they roll up and support our purpose. And then we've got some validating points that we're proud of. I won't go through them, but the market is telling us we're doing an okay job. So I thought I'd share that with you. The gist of what we do: companies work with us in California, Northern California, Southern California, Hawaii, and we do computer system support for them, things like help desk, long-term planning and strategy, and of course, now helping them try to figure out how do we implement and graft artificial technology into the organization. Moving on to the next slide, please, my friend.
I want to throw out there, though, I'm really glad to see the Write a Boom thing made it into this slide. That was excellent and super cool. But I love that it's in here. That's great.
Pretty cool.
It really is it is a big deal. We've got a short if folks want to see why we think that's so important. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about something different. So Michelle's going to talk to us a little bit about what she's seen out there on the Copilot side and with some of the other large language models and AI tools that are in the market. So she'll give us an overview there. Eugene is going to pick up the baton from there, and he's got some prompting examples. He's going to pop open ChatGPT and kind of show us how it works in real time. And hopefully we'll get some really good training there on just how to be specific with our prompts. And then, of course, we're going to bring Stephen in to scare us and tell us all the things that we need to be thinking about when it comes to implementing AI in the organization, because it's not just that the tools are out there. Most of our clients, they have a lot to lose. They're not a startup, and so you can't just willy-nilly start deploying different technologies in the organization. You need to think it through. And then we'll hopefully have some time for Q&A. So soup to nuts, we're going to try to get through this in an hour. And with that, Michelle, I'm going to turn it over to you. And
Great.
there's a lot there on that slide. I'm going to let you toot your
Yeah,
own
we're
horn because I've already told everybody how much
no,
I
I
love you.
don't. No, I don't toot my own horn. This is all about me and the years I've been at Endsight. And basically, what this slide boils down to is I've been here a really long time. I'm kind of old. I'm not that curmudgeon yet, but I do have a little bit of experience in the. I'm not. I said yet.
I've been muted.
At any rate, I'm going to go through a quick recap. If you were with us for our last AI office hours back in March, we talked a little bit about like a very high level overview of what artificial intelligence is. We went over large language models and how to understand what large language models do. We talked about different flavors of AIs and systems and some of those attendant knowledge bases and what their limitations of the different AI flavors are in the space of either targeted or they're general. We went through some new features. We had Copilot Prompt Gallery, which I'm sure everybody who attended last AI office hours has got into Prompt Gallery and started playing around in there, right? Just everybody nod and smile, yes. Copilot Pages, Virtual Agent Creator, which is the image generator that works with Copilot. We talked a lot about SharePoint agents, and then our big one was about Copilot Chat, which is the pay-as-you-go program that allows us to enable Copilot features for agent use and inside of SharePoint without buying a full-on Copilot license. So moving on to what's new today, a lot of what's happened in the last 3 to 6 months has been more kind of on the back end. It's really targeted at those of us who administrate AI systems, and we need to be able to see what's going on inside of the organization and do a little bit of data governance and control over who has access to what and who's sending prompts out to what. So a little bit more boring in the what's new this section in this AI office hours, but we're going to cover it anyway. So Copilot Actions, not a back-end thing, it's a front-end thing. Copilot Actions are available in Copilot Labs. It does require a pro subscription. So what does that mean? Pro subscriptions is a personal Copilot license. This is not an enterprise class thing. So if you're one of those users, maybe you were an early adopter, you went out and farted around with Copilot early on a personal account and you have a pro license, you can get into Copilot Labs and you can play around with Copilot Actions. And it's really supposed to it's targeted at being like a personal assistant that can actually go and complete tasks on your behalf. So if you ask it, for instance, go out and make me or book me a flight to Hawaii on this date, it's actually going to bring up a screen that shows the web interface, all of the mouse clicks that would normally happen, the searching for the best price, and then when it needs information from the user, it's going to prompt that back to the screen, allow you to input personal information for the name that the ticket's going to be under, or payment information of how you're going to pay to get that flight to Hawaii. So in the idea of becoming a full-on personal assistant, this would be the same thing you would tell your assistant to go do. Hey, go find me a cheap flight to Hawaii. I don't want to pay more than this, amount of money, and I want to go during these dates. And they would go out and make all that research. They would come back to you for the information to fill out, and that's kind of what Copilot Actions does. I do expect this to turn around into some enterprise type things. However, we do already have access to Copilot Actions inside of Copilot Studio on the enterprise side, and this is where we bring automation actions into search and indexing spaces or agents, right? So in the past, we're looking for data. We're asking Copilot to go out and find or do some research for us. The actions is, what do I do with that data now? Well, maybe I want to in our world, go find me this ticket that has to do with this client, that has to do with this subject. Okay, now you found the ticket. Okay, put a time entry in for me. And that's the action side of it. The pro side of this, the generic kind of web-based actions is in preview currently. I expect that to turn over probably in the next month or two. And then, we'll be focusing, of course, more on the enterprise side for those things. Unified agent management. This is an admin tool. This allows an admin inside of a tenant to go out and configure permissions and review analytics and behavior from the viewpoint of the admin center inside of 365. So this gives those of us who are responsible for Copilot usage inside of our organizations the ability to manage who can access agents, who can access which data sources in which environments or which spaces inside of our orgs, and really kind of talks to the ability to have tools to do data governance or lock down security or accessibility type functions. The connector reuse piece, this is kind of new. It's kind of new and kind of not, but basically development's really focused on this, is building custom connectors. And this is where we take an outside third-party data source that's intrinsic to our organization that doesn't already have a connector into Copilot. We build a connector using their API, which is the public side of where we can hit endpoints and get comb data out. But now with this connector we use, we only have to build those connectors once and then be able to share those out with other people. So if I'm doing one thing with the API connector that I'm using, but Anthony down at security wants to use it for something else, I can share that connector with him and he doesn't have to start from scratch building the API access and that kind of thing. So connector reuse, again, more on the admin or development side for these, but super important to cut down on the time it takes us to get from here to there. Form automation is not one that I had up on here, but this is basically automated collection and insights coming off of forms. PowerPoint summarization. Oh, sorry, that was under there. It's under productivity. Haha. So for instance, on the form automation side, an example of this is if you have a recorded training session inside of Teams, Copilot can build a follow-up plan on that team, put it into something like Planner, assign out all those tasks to people based on the feedback it's getting from the transcript out of the training session. And then once those tasks are assigned to your team, Planner helps you follow up on those, and Copilot interacts with Planner. And so you've got this interactive, hey, you've got due dates coming up, or so-and-so has too many due dates coming up. Do you need to, what do you want to do with these? Do we want to push them out? Do we want to put another person on that team to get some of those tasks done? PowerPoint summarization, they've done some improvements in the PowerPoint space within Copilot. So not really super new and flashy, but PowerPoint's getting better at dealing with AI. One of the things that they've been focusing on over the last couple months is this ability to take large volumes of data. So like a long product overview or a big long 17-page executive summary, and then summarize it down, not only to give you a summary of what's in that paragraph, but to do it in presentation format, bullet points or different slides, and then discussion topics about each one of those slides. So a little bit more intelligent actions inside of PowerPoint. The last one on this one is organizational insights. This is more of like a data-driven layer within Microsoft Copilot. This is something intended to help managers and those people that have reports to understand their workforce a little bit better. So we've got AI-powered analytics from 365 tools like Teams and Outlook and Viva, and you get surfaced insights about things like skill coverage or gaps, collaboration patterns, team workloads, and so on and so forth. So if you're thinking about this in the space of, I need a designer who works with Figma, right? Being able to ask Copilot about my workforce base tells me so-and-so, Jason's got, experience working with Figma, and he's got availability on his schedule next week. Do you want me to block off some time with him? And so that's the idea of the organizational insights. That's the surfacing of skills. The surfacing of gaps would be something like asking which departments are stretched thin. Obviously, this is dependent on people filling out their calendars and that kind of thing, but which departments are stretched thin? Copilot can return a dashboard based on workload telemetry. And so you get gap analysis and the idea that before it becomes a problem, you're recognizing that this department may not be able to reach their targets because they're just stretched too thin, too busy. Let's see. The next slide is mostly about other flavors of AI. So we talked about this a little bit in the last AI office hours, and I wanted to kind of bring this one along with all the stuff that we talked about Copilot. So in the Gemini space, Gemini 2.5 Pro was released. This brings about some enhanced reasoning, coding capabilities, summarizing of lengthy documents, help writing code, market content. Gemini is doing the best they can to kind of really keep up with what's going on in the ChatGPT space. Next is OpenAI. OpenAI also released a new version. They went from 4.0 to 4.1. Their new research tools, and it has also released a thing called deep analysis. Stephen could go on probably for about a good 15 minutes. And really, when can Stephen not go on for about 15 minutes about something? But Stephen can go on about 15 minutes
You
about
see that bus?
about deep research. And basically, he used it to go do an analysis of a market section and got back such deep insights into, and it takes a little while to build all this stuff, but it was pretty cool what it came back with and what it was able to analyze and get out of that. If you're curious about that and you have a chance to talk to Stephen, ask him about it because he can talk about it. Let's see. Our next one is Grok 3. Grok is Elon Musk's tool. So this one is directly integrated with X, which is formerly Twitter. So now we've got some context sensitive searching and generation, some deep research, visual editing, personal summarization. So really this is more targeted though at that live stream kind of thing. So if you know about X or about Twitter, what it is, it's more like the live stream kind of commentation that's going on. And Grok is, while it will search the web, another thing, it's more focused on that live stream conversation. But they've had some advancements in the last couple of months with their reasoning agents and models. Okay, so my section on, that's the section on what's new. The section on, I usually do kind of a deep dive into something. And one thing I've been getting asked questions about is, as a lot of you took me up on my offer of, hey, let's set up Copilot chat for your users who want to get in and play with AI in a safe way, but not pay for a full license for them. So we've been turning on Copilot chat. And then the next question that came up for this, because it's a pay-as-you-go and it's a metered thing that's billing your Azure pay-as-you-go subscription, from my IT managers is, how do I monitor what my users are doing? How do I know how much they're spending on a regular basis? And so I wanted to surface a couple of tools that allow this to happen. And these live mostly in the 365 admin space. We may need to turn on some permissions for different people inside of the organization so they can see these things, but I want to introduce them so you guys know they're out there and can bring this up with your account manager down the road if you need access to them. But the first one is Copilot Dashboard. This is a centralized interface. It lives in the 365 Admin Center, and it mostly centers around adoption metrics. So you get things that are tracking, or you get tracking on how many users have accessed Copilot inside of certain applications if they have a full license, or on the agent or SharePoint level if you're using pay-as-you-go. The user level insights breaks that down a little farther and takes it down to the individual user. And so we've got things like the number of days they've been active using AI, what tools they're using, what tasks they're doing with them. So you can see things like, look at your finance team members, for example, and see if they're using Excel for modeling or just generating simple tables. And they give you that difference on how deeply they're able to use the tools that they have in front of them. The productivity trends graph is insights on how Copilot is affecting task completion time. So we're talking about meeting load or focus hours, things along those lines. It can also give you a little bit of insight into how much time you're saving, say, for prepping for meetings inside of an organization. Or, and obviously these are going to be benchmarks that they're comparing against, but if a task used to take 20 hours and now it takes 10, this gives you a little bit of insight into that ROI for Copilot licensing. And then the last part of this is that you can export these different graphs and trends into Excel, do further analysis on them, or they can be pulled into Power BI as part of larger dashboards as you're looking at different tools inside of your organization. My last talk, and then I'll stop talking for a little while so you can hear from somebody else for a little bit.
Oh my God, it's like a relief.
I know, finally, right? Oh, it's been a long time. This slide specifically is about Copilot chat, the pay-as-you-go part. So we're looking right now, what we're looking for here is to kind of keep tabs on what our users are doing so that if they're approaching a message usage rate that's equivalent to what a monthly Copilot license would be, and they're going to be doing this on a regular basis, we want to know who those people are so we can switch them over to a full license. So if by the 10th of the month, John Smith over in accounting has used enough messaging that we might as well get him a license, and we can go talk to him and ask him, hey, was this an exploratory thing, or is this kind of something you're trying to build into your workflow? No, I'm trying to build it in my workflow. That's a key or clue for our administrators to say, hey, we need to put them on a full Copilot license and not incur the other 20 days that he's going to be doing the same activities and spending more on that pay-as-you-go rate. So, and here we've got things like message usage consumption, and then the usage report is over under here, and that's down by like general and contextual. This is another snapshot of it on the number of messages consumed and the last active date, users who consumed. This gets down into the user level. And then the high usage alert appears where you can set a threshold. And you can say things like, I don't want to spend more than $100 a month on Copilot chat, right? We're a small organization. We're just dipping our toes in. I just want to see what it is. Don't want to spend more than. So you get this alert that pops up in here for license utilization, and you can kind of watch how that increases or stays steady throughout the month. And then your agent usage panel over here, for those of you who have played around with SharePoint agents or in Copilot Studio with agents, and you want to know the adoption rate or the usage that's going on inside your organization, this is insights into that type of information. Happy to go through any of these with you if you want to dig into them a little bit further down the road. This is really a quick, here they are kind of thing. Clearly, there's a lot in here to go dig through, and I won't bore you with much detail on it. But know that these reports are out there and they exist, and we can open those up for you so you can monitor that type of usage. Okay, my part is done, so I'm going to sit back and enjoy the rest of the show. So Eugene is going to come out. Eugene is going to talk a little bit about prompting. So if you haven't met Eugene, you should definitely get on a call and talk to him because he's got just a vast depth of knowledge on a lot of things that have to do with Power Platform. So he's got nearly 30 years of IT experience. He's nailed some multiple Microsoft certifications, probably with a blindfold on, I think. He is our senior developer here at Endsight and works in our Power Platform spaces, works with many of our clients on building automations and customizations and getting business process kind of nailed down and automated so that we can take those tasks off of people and get them back to other things that they need to get done. His specialization is in Power Apps and automation and now AI. And he is probably the person inside of Endsight that I know of that uses AI the most in our organization. So he's gonna talk to you about prompting.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
No. This is a topic that we're probably going to visit a couple of times.
Yeah, just to for an impromptu, this past weekend we're getting a roof replaced on our detached garage, and I know nothing about roofing. So my wife wants a metal roof, I want an asphalt roof. I worked in with AI for quotes, what I'm asking for, what I should be looking for, having it cross-analyze all of the people in my area, looking at Better Business Bureau, and literally narrowing that down. And as the quotes came in, feeding it and helped me compare. So yeah, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to using this, but. Today, let's jump in a little bit. I think we're just going to go into some basic prompting with a little more advanced features. And this may be a little 101 for some folks, but bear with me. You may learn a little bit from it yet. All right, so let's go into prompting and why this particularly matters. Let's first start with this. Prompting isn't magic. It's a skill. A lot of people get frustrated, I think, when they get in here. They have the old mentality that they're going to google.com or Bing or something like that and just we've been conditioned over the years to just put in different search terms that we have. I'm going to look up the 10 best laptops or what's on sale or what's rated well. We all know that those search engines pretty much make their money by you paying a little bit more and pairing up in the top of the list. So it's not really doing a lot of active comparison as much as it is some others, but AI could do so much more than that. But you have to learn some of the techniques and asking it exactly what you want it to do. So when you do learn this skill, you'll get better results, you'll get efficiency and clarity, and productivity boost out of it overall. Pretty much think of prompting as giving clear directions. It takes a little bit of thought. Doing it well means less confusion, quicker outcomes, and results you can trust. What we'll be covering today, oh, my bad. Hold on, let me go back one slide. All right, we're going to jump right into our example today. One of the items I actually have is we're going to go over bad prompts, elements of a strong prompt, the importance of context, tones, personas, starter and moderate prompting techniques, and a live demo. Let's go into pretty much an example, see if we can get people on the same page of thinking about this. So imagine everyone says, hey, we're going on a road trip. And of course, Vegas comes to mind. The only thing that the team knows is they're going there, but everyone asks a lot of follow-up questions like, how are we getting there? What dates are we going? What are we going to visit? What venues are there? How hot is it? How should I dress? Where do you guys want to visit? Those are all very good ideas, and those questions lead to good prompts. If you imagine, as Michelle had given an example of just going out and typing that into AI that we're going to Vegas, you're just going to get a bunch of vague results back. You start adding in that additional context of what you want to do or what the group wants to do, or throwing in a budget, or let's say, for instance, I want to be able to look off my balcony and see the Bellagio fountains. So when you put a prompt like that into AI, it'll start to narrow down only those hotels that have that view. And you won't have to worry about going to Google Maps or seeing different references or looking on your map to see if you think you'll have an unobstructed view. AI can pretty much do that for you and actually look at the reviews. Let me see if trying to advance the slide here. As I mentioned earlier, sorry, a little bit out of order. We're going to go over what makes a bad prompt a strong prompt, the importance of context, tone, personas. This isn't deja vu. I was just reading ahead a little bit. Starters and moderate prompting techniques in a live demo. And speaking of demos, it's a good time to actually, if you know me, I like to play with things on the keyboard as opposed to talking to slides. So let's put some stress on Michelle in the group and actually show you my live screen. And I'll leave this here for now. Let me unprompt where I could actually show my screen.
I support putting stress on Michelle.
Well, come on now. Let's see. Let's
It's
go.
a practice you
while
engage
you're
in
while
every
you're
day.
doing the transition, folks, I want to share that, as we're going to see some great examples here, but I have gotten personally huge benefit out of using personas, right? Asking Copilot and ChatGPT to be something, behave like something, be a copywriter, be a, I got really good information when I asked it to be an international trade expert. Just really, really cool things that you can do just by narrowing it to a certain field of study. Dramatically improves the results I get from the tools.
Almost like you've read a couple of slides ahead, Jason. But yes, I totally agree. And we're going to go over some of those techniques. And
yeah, I'm not trying. Yeah, I'm not trying to steal your thunder. I'm sorry. I just
no problem. We're on the same page.
I don't like silence.
Let's go with, like I said, in our example today, let's go through, and we all know we've gone to Google. I'm going to put in the 10 best humidifiers. We talked about this earlier. This is kind of what your brain does, even if you want to go off script and do things in real time in 2025, even with spelling mistakes. You notice sponsored material that comes to the top. You don't really know if they're getting paid for some of these. You're going to read.
Eugene, I don't know if I'm the only one, but
You're
I'm not
not.
seeing your screen, buddy.
Oh, let me try that again. How about now?
There we go. Thanks, pal.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right. So inside of what we're doing right now, I'm doing a simple Google search. Let me look at the 10 best humidifiers. So as you notice, sponsored comes to the top. Notice you get paid a little bit more. You get up towards the top of their list. It's the way the internet works that we've put together in our lifetime. But you'd have to go through all of these articles and then hope they aren't incentivized or have click-throughs or wondering how they get paid for some of these. So this is the way our brain thinks. So if we do that same thing in GPT today, generic, 10 best. Always when somebody's watching you type. By the way, GPT and others are very fluent in typo, which I do quite often. So as you can imagine, it goes out there. It's going to bring you back kind of ads. Now, is it incentivized today? No. Will it be? Probably in short time. But you're noticing you're kind of getting generic reviews. What I wanted to show you is let's go through and let's make these prompts better. So what exactly would be better for something like this? And that's usually giving it a little more context. And we're going to go through what's called iterating. We're going to try different prompts in real time and try to narrow the results we want. So that would be an example of a poor prompt. What I would put in after you see all of their examples of what's coming back and why, it doesn't really know what you want, what's best for you, what you are looking for. So let's give it a little more context. Let's just mention, hey, I have now a 400 square foot bedroom. I need a quiet humidifier. Should I do an ultrasonic or an evaporative, and why? So now you're asking it a little more information, so it knows, okay, let's not get something too big or too small for the particular area. It knows to hone in on quiet. This is a little better example. And for this model today, we're using 4.0, which is one of their faster ones out there. If anyone wants to ever see what models are and how they're different or what projects do or anything else in any of these tools, let me know. We could definitely do a follow-up for this. But today, if anyone's wondering, I'm using the 4.0 model. So now after evaluating a lot of the questions we had, It's going to say, hey, here's whisper quiet operations and why I'm recommending these particular ones and different information. And it's starting to narrow our choice down and explain to us the difference that we're asking for. So it gets it a little bit closer. Now it's even throwing in some price comparisons. And like I said, that was pretty good. Let's go take this to the next level. This is using a little bit of prompting and a little bit of the personas you have. Tell this what it is. Always I start my prompts off with is, you are a home quality expert, or you are a power platform expert, or you are an expert in roofing, or something to the degree of telling it what it is. That's always the best technique to start out. And then give it more context, more information of what you're looking for, so it can help narrow those results without you having to read through all of those articles to do it yourself. So in this case, hey, I'm a home quality expert. I'm a father. I have a young child with asthma. Now I also have that 400 square foot bedroom. I want quiet operation, easy maintenance. Basically the more information you could give this here, and it could be a giant run-on, the more it'll focus and give you the answers you're looking for. So now it narrows down even the results, and anything in this thread that we mentioned, it's remembering this. It's actually getting a little smarter. Now it's starting to dial it in a little bit better. So now it's particularly looking for anything that's good for asthma. And you'll notice here the ultrasonic and the anti-dust features and why it's any good, and some warning message. Here's a comparison table. Ultimately, I could tell it, hey, give me your ultimate recommendation, but at least hopefully these iterative prompts show you a little more of how to advance, how to get better information back. Here's a decision guide. You can even say at the bottom, hey, narrow these down to your best 2 choices and tell me why, or which one's right for me. And sometimes I get information paralysis with 5 up there. It's hard for me to choose what's on a menu. But if I can say I'm interested between this and this, it'll usually give you a follow-up as to, if you're interested in this, select this one, if not the other. This one is telling you even to use a hygrometer as well. Let's switch gears a little bit and make Stephen very nervous. First, I will say, what I will say, I am about to show you, I've drawn up some mock data. Don't do this in real life with sensitive information. But I asked GPT basically, hey, give me a spreadsheet full of some information. So this is maybe what you'll be able to do in your business. Give it some particular information, make sure it's not sensitive. Because remember, depending on the license you have, and we'll cover this later, information that you give the GPT could be a security concern. I could have easily pivoted and gone to my roofing example that I did earlier and showing you some of the quotes and did that, but I want to show you some of the graphing capabilities. So let's just say this is a mock presentation with some information of sales from different quarters and everything else, and it's quite rich. I did an export. It's safe. My IT company and security said it's okay to analyze this.
I absolutely did not say that.
I could put this in Copilot, which once again can do governance for me, and it could narrow or restrict that, but at least folks take a peek at least what's here. Let's start a new chat and actually start rolling with some information of how to use this information. So in this one, I'm going to start a new chat. In this particular case, I want to feed it that file. So I've linked my OneDrive directly. It's able to pull that information up. At the top of my list will be my complex sales data, maybe not as complex. And let's start asking some real examples of what to do with this information. So in this particular one, as long as I can highlight my prompt in advance, I want to basically tell it, hey, analyze the provided sales data. Give me the top 3 performing products by total sales. Provide a summary explaining these results. So now it's basically going to grab that information. It's going to bring it in. It's going to analyze it. And then it's going to start looking through the KPIs that I've given it and how to get information out of this. So if you ever wanted to consult somebody, not in your office, or just ask AI, what do you think? It'll actually start producing this information, giving it back to us. So in this particular item, it's showing us our top 3 products, summary of results, what they are, where they rank. And like I said, that's okay. Let's actually say we want it. Notice it's a rapid summarization of complex data. Human analysts would be a little bit slower to do this, but it's not impossible. A lot of people have reports, but what allows you to do this is to quickly pivot and ask more complex or follow-up questions like, let's identify monthly sales trends and highlight the highest overall monthly sales based on reasons, based on data. And notice this will take a little minute. Depending on the model that you have, you'll get immediate, clear insights with minimal additional effort, just asking to follow up. So in this one, notice it's sorted by the information that we required, got information back. But hey, I'm a visual guy. Words don't do me well. I guess I must be a C-level executive at heart. No shots. Let's actually show these with nice, shiny charts. And actually, let's see a rolling 12-month period of that information. So now I'm asking it for information. I'm asking it for a graph too. I actually like to see this information in order to prepare it for me. So we all know we could probably make pivot tables, go to Excel, you'd export it. You could have something where, Power Query Editor, where it already locks into and does reports that you want to. But notice how quick I got this information back. I've got total sales. I've got it broken up by salesperson and a stacked bar chart. Brings everything out. Very useful, something you could copy, paste, download, bring with you. Very easy. And let's see. Now let's do this. Let's pretend for a second I don't know what graphs to use. I'm an engineer, not that smart, don't know sales that well, but at least I don't know what KPIs to use. And you can be honest. Tell it, hey, I want to analyze my sales rep performance, but I'm unaware of what maybe the best visuals to use, like a stacked bar chart or a scatter chart. I don't know what those are, and I don't know what KPIs to use. I'm telling it, since remember, it's an expert, recommend 3 visualizations and KPIs and tell me why you did those. So this would help me look good to my boss, actually coming to with the slides needed with probably the best representation of what to show. And it'll actually go through here and it'll probably explain to me which ones and which KPIs to use. And one of the last things that it's going to drop at the bottom, so you're going to say, do you want me to create these? Which typically you'll say yes. So it's telling us the information, how to chart it, use different quotas. And here it is. Usually at the end, it'll end with, hey, do you want to see that? Yes, I do. Gives it a second, comes back.
That's one of my favorite prompts. Yes, please.
Several seconds.
Yes, please.
Right.
Actually, buying a little bit of time while it does sometimes get caught or has to load, even with the 4.0 model. They said there's a lot of money being lost by GPT and others by people just replying thanks because it has to use processing power to basically acknowledge that the user said something there. So it's a little bit of a joke. But anyway, here's the charts that I actually brought to that I created above. And you can actually download these. You can interact with it. And once again, this is GPT, but just as easily, I could have put these into Gemini, or I could have put these into Copilot. So that quickly brings it up. I don't want to keep you too much longer. Last thing I'll put in here is one more persona. And particularly, I'm going to put in, let's see, using this data, imagine if I had to explain this to a teenager. So once again, you could tell it, hey, I want to explain this to somebody in high school, junior high, an intern, something on their level to
or developer.
Gen Z.
Or developer.
There you go. I'm an analogy guy, big Family Guy fan. I want an analogy.
I was waiting for Michelle to say, or Stephen.
Or Stephen. I mean, you show Stephen code and he's liable to throw up on me. So
anyway, that's pretty much what I have. We could transition back. Let me stop sharing if you would. I have a couple more items to bring up. I'll be around for Q&A, but we'll transition.
These were great examples, and there were some great questions that we got in there. Michelle's been answering a little bit as you've been working. So this is great, Eugene. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll wrap it up here real quick, but everyone may ask, hey, why do I have to learn these prompting techniques? Quick example I'll go through. Yamamoto is one of our clients, and they're a law firm. As you'd imagine, they want billable hours. Last thing they want is their lawyers coming in the morning and having to read all this information from their clients and catching up for 3 hours on what's going on with different cases and solicitations and updates from the judges. So they engaged us, Endsight, to come in there to actually get a link every morning, go out, grab a file, analyze that file, and do a bunch of information. So we scan an inbox for incoming updates. It actually uses AI to extract information out of it, like who's the client, what's the report. It retrieves the file from the internet, puts it temporarily in OneDrive. pretty much then does content summarization with prompts that the users there can actually tweak. So it gets better over time and it's dynamic, and ultimately sends this thing out in a format that most of their users, their clients or their lawyers could see waiting for them 8 o'clock in the morning for, hey, this update happened overnight. Do you want more information? Click this link and they can go out and grab it. So it's one example of what we did for them.
It's a really good example, Eugene. And folks, just so that you know, we actually have a video demonstration of this up on our website. Aaron, if you want to maybe pop a link to it into the chat so folks can link to it and take a look at it. But you can see how it works.
I'm more than happy to walk anyone through something like that. If you can think of what the process is, I can automate it. Just within our IT department, hey, we don't just preach this, we do it. But just within our IT department today, we have requirements gathering and user story creation, all done with AI. So in other words, when we sit down with you as a client, we get a transcript, I put it in, I give it a prompt, it writes all of my user stories for you. Something that usually a BA would have to sit with you and we would have to charge a number of hours just to have that interaction. So it's speed and getting exactly what you need out faster. We have a feature estimator. So something, hey, let me put this in and see exactly, have we done it before? Can we reference past material? If not, it'll start drawing it up. We have a Dev Guru Copilot chat. If anyone's interested in Copilot and what that could do, I could do that meeting for you as well. General feasibility assessments that we do, and something called Quote Forge, where if you ask for any statement of work from the development team, it'll put that together, take your requirements, build it out into a statement of work, and then send it to humans to review. These don't go out blind. AI doesn't always get it right. So it's something that at least we get it to the stage where it does 80% of the work, and then we just have to tweak the last parts. And the last thing it does is we have one that actually, I hate doing technical documentation. I feed it a file, it writes it for me, and then I just have to glance at it and check it in. So these are what good AI prompting applications can do for you today. If you haven't thought of these, it's applicable to any industry. I'll just let some of these come up. So invoice reporting automation, anything with a company assistant or a bot. In this particular case, hey, how about helping you with sales, media, and consulting? Some of the other ones that'll come in, and I'll bring these up quicker. An onboarding assistant, competitive analysis. We went over that before with some of the sales data. Automated hiring assistant. Last thing you probably want to do is, hey, we got to hire somebody. Well, what requirements do they need to have? Do we have to post it out there? What about the candidates where you're getting? What questions should we ask them? Are they a match? I mean, all of that could really be dusted up with AI. How about looking at some of the complaints and analysis and sentiment that come to you and figuring out if somebody's upset, you could escalate that quicker. You could optimize your sales. Hey, how do you get your website to appear up? Once again, run it through AI for what you should be able to put in there. You can even do inventory and sales forecasting for you. Once again, applies to almost any business. I probably have gone over, so let me bow out as of this point. I'll be around for the Q&A. If anyone has any questions, or please, for the next seminar that we have coming up at the end, if you'd like to see any of these in a little more detail, by all means, please voice that to us. We'll definitely put it into a vote or a chat, and the next items you all want to see, I'll be happy to show you.
Right. I'll take it one step further. If you want to talk about it, let's talk about it, because you'd be astounded how quickly you can go from an idea to an automation that can actually get this work done. With that, we're going to bring in Mr. Stephen Hicks. Stephen, okay, it's time for you to kind of share with us some of the things we need to be thinking about as we look to implement technologies that are going to automate all this stuff for us.
Sure. Hi, everybody. For those that don't know me, I'm the security practice manager over here. And because Dev talks so much, I'm going to have to go a little quick on this one.
Yes, but you don't want to put everybody to sleep, so we just shortened yours a little bit.
That's fair. That's a complete, no, that's good. I understand that. So everybody, when it comes to security in AI, we get a lot of these types of questions. How do I keep my data safe? What's important? How do I make sure the data is not being trained or being leaked everywhere? So I kind of want to speak about the three most important things we think happen around security in AI. And those are authenticity of the data, DLP, data leakage, effectively. Robert, that's your question. I know about that one. And access control. I'm going to take them each in order. So the first thing I want to talk about is authenticity. And what's really important here is, listen, y'all, we all know that humans are lazy, right? I am. And it is what it is. But if you can write an entire article in 10 seconds, maybe eventually you become complacent and you can't necessarily figure out whether the data is good or whether it's bad. There's lots of talk in the chat about hallucinations, stuff like that. One of the things that's really important when you have AI in the organization, and I'm specifically talking about content creation at this point, but I don't necessarily just mean words, charts, graphs, any kind of forecasting. It's important that that data has a robust review process, because you certainly wouldn't want to send something on to clients or chief officers or internal stakeholders that you think might be wrong. And it should be reviewed. It's very, very important to make sure the data, the content creation, all the stuff you're doing has some level of human review, at least at the current time. And we got a really great example here. Thank you, Aaron Krebs. There was quite a bit of time where you could Google, are there bees in my computer? And Google would tell you there are, in fact, bees in your computer. That's how they do the calculations of the CPU. For those of you that do not know, your computer does not actually contain bees. I know this is a shock.
Good. I'm allergic to bees.
Well, then I wish her computer.
Stephen, what about the little demons in my TV set? Are they real?
Yeah, that's actually AI. It's a demon AI. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you should be good on that. No worries
good.
there. So the reason we say this is, look, everybody, we've all done it. We've all just read the first sentence of an email or the header of an article or the first paragraph of a report. We do reports for our clients in security, and we get people that just want a summary. It's hours and hours of writing to do the summary. It's important. AI is not perfect, and it's not likely to ever be, but humans tend to trust and they tend to become complacent. And as everyone on this call knows, we are currently working with the worst version of AI that will exist. Mm-hmm. It will only get better. And that's fantastic. And there are some things that I can pretty decently trust AI for. What's the temperature today? Should I water my plants more? Give me a recipe for chocolate cake. But there have been times when the recipe for chocolate cake contained sawdust or bleach or something like that. So you got to be really careful on things like that. And I think that's the most important part. People can tell when AI has written something, usually currently, with weak prompting. But it's not going to always be like that. You certainly wouldn't want to send an official communication out from a high-ranking executive of your organization with incorrect information or committing yourself to an action you do not want to take. Like, say you wrote a client contract with AI and it committed you to something you didn't want to have. So it's the first important thing is the authenticity of the data. Make sure you're reviewing this stuff and make sure your employees have a policy to review it. I wish I had some kind of neat technical control that could make sure you didn't send AI generated content out as your own. We don't have that yet. So you need an administrative control, a policy, a written policy that says you will review all AI generated content to make sure that it is the voice we want and accurate. Okay, next, DLP. So everybody, this is the big question we get. Number one question, I did it in the middle to kind of keep you awake a little bit. Everybody is concerned, what happens to the data I upload on these sites? And Robert had a great question. If I connect my OneDrive to ChatGPT, how do I make sure it's not stealing my data and training on it? And it's true. Public AI is a significant risk for data leakage. ChatGPT and Gemini and Grok and Claude and DeepSeek, they are all training on public data. And they are all training, if you're a free user, you submit something, they are training on that data. Now, users may already be using that to train on it, right? They may have been already putting public information in their private accounts or their free accounts. You can have a free ChatGPT account right now. So there are two approaches to this, right? The first one is policy. Just say, hey, you absolutely cannot send private information to an AI unless we've approved it in writing. Now, I will tell you that the version of Copilot that comes with Microsoft 365 that's actually paid for, and all the paid plans for ChatGPT and the others very publicly state that they do not train on your data. I will leave your faith to corporate tactics up to you, whether you think they are being truthful for that or not. I still see it as a risk, but it is a largely undefinable risk because I don't know how much they're training on your data. I would definitely still say, make sure you're not uploading data that you wouldn't risk, right? It's everywhere. It even says we have a very corporate ChatGPT account at Endsight, and it says it does not train on data everywhere we look. But I have exactly the same amount of faith in that as I have faith in a written policy that says You tell your users not to do this, right? The other policy, of course, is a technical control. And that technical control is effectively, you can't access this on your work device. Now, when we get into data loss prevention, DLP itself is an entire field of study, and it's an entire skill set in IT, and it is part of the security and part of the data governance realm. And it's always going to have a challenge because we all have phones, right? You have a phone in your friggin' hand, probably, because you're not listening to me. That would be silly. So what you could do is just take a picture of your screen with your phone. It's defeatable. But we have lots of ways to test this. We have lots of ways to check it. And just like all other things in security, layers are important. So it's nice to have, you have a policy that says you can't put corporate data in AI that you don't, sensitive data. You have a technical control to remove access to all the AI sites you don't want. One of the great things about Microsoft Copilot is it actually sticks with all the logging and permissions and stuff that's set up in Microsoft 365. So you don't actually have another ChatGPT layer on top of that. There are some weaknesses. Copilot tends to be a little bit behind ChatGPT in power. But the point is that this is just a risk you need to understand. You need to understand there is a risk, and it never, at least at the moment, cannot be fully defeated. There's always a risk that somebody prints something out from the corporate world, scans it, and uploads it into a free ChatGPT account. And until I have complete control over everything, which I very much do not want, and our users also do not want, this is a risk. And since we have 10 minutes, I'm going to go through the last one as quickly as I can. Access control. So AI, especially Microsoft Copilot, is a absolutely spectacular search engine. Oh my goodness. The indexing and finding data inside other data and combining insights to all the data you can see is just super well done, right? We have a concept in IT called configuration drift. And that is, I set the system up, and then I hired and fired people. I opened and closed projects. I started and ended lines of business. I merged. I got bought. All these things happen just doing business, right? And as a result of that, the configuration can kind of drift out of spec, right? It's just, this is a natural setup of what happens when things change. And then usually we recommend you have a security review or a configuration review to bring it back into spec. But if you don't, there's a concept in IT called security through obscurity. How many people in here, and give me a 1 in chat if you're awake, have access to HR or finance? And while I'm talking, give me a 2 in chat if you are absolutely certain that no one who shouldn't have access to HR and finance does. It's just frickin' perfect, and nobody has access to that. And I'm not seeing a heck ton of 2s here, and there's a reason for that, right? You may actually have access to something you're not supposed to have. And look, you just don't know. Maybe you never tried to look at the CEO's salary. Maybe you never tried to look at the last the amount of money the company made last, or who's being hired or fired. But the minute you put AI in, it'll index it. It'll include it in the search. It'll everything. It immediately becomes completely accessible and searchable. So having reviews of who actually has permissions and making sure that it's correct is hugely important, because the minute you put AI in, I can see everything I've got access to, even the stuff I shouldn't. Now, I'm in security, our team's in IT. This is common for us, but it's not common for line staff. And so it's really important to point out Endsight has both manual permissions reviews with engineers or with my security team to be able to make sure you only have access to stuff you have. But Michelle and her actually pretty spectacular development team have a tool that will crawl your SharePoint and report on the permissions that everybody has to make sure you're dang sure that you're not accidentally giving somebody the ability to index everybody's salaries. And I will leave you with one last thing. Please give me a 3 in chat if you've ever had anyone in any job you've ever had email out something accidentally they should not have had access to. It has happened in my career 3 or 4 times. This is what I'm concerned about when it comes to access control. There's the 3s. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I kind of knew that was going to be the answer. So those are the 3 big things with security. And next AI office hours, we'll talk a little bit more in depth about some of them, and we'll see what else comes up about it. But to summarize, make sure the data is authentic. Make sure you have a policy and perhaps technical controls to prevent people from just putting random stuff in ChatGPT or other, and make sure that people who should have access do, and people who shouldn't have access don't, because AI will find it. Mr. Claus.
Excellent. Stephen, thank you as always. All three of you, great job. Before we get to the Q&A, we're going to get there really quickly. A lot of times at this point, people are like, okay, I kind of get this. Where do I start? So Michelle, could you just build the whole slide, please? The best path that there's one more, Michelle. The best path that we've come up with so far, one more, is one, if you haven't already begun creating user groups, that's a great place to start your work, right? People that are already interested in this, people that are curious, people that are kind of the people that try to get the work done in a faster way or in a more accurate way. Those are the people that you should be picking for your groups. And there's lots of different ways to structure that. As you're doing that, I know we're saying then next do an AI readiness, but I think in parallel, this is you should be doing this. Stephen talked about the SharePoint analyzer, having Stephen and his team make sure that the environment is ready for that Copilot or that ChatGPT or whatever the technology is that's going to be laid in there that your user group is going to begin experimenting with. Then you want those groups to begin meeting regularly, right? Some regular cadence where they're sharing ideas and then leveraging additional resources like in the Copilot world, a prompt library, for example, or in the Endsight world, maybe looping in your technical account manager for questions or bringing some Eugene or Michelle into one of your meetings to lead some discussions or trainings. But we've had success with this at Endsight. There's a number of different user groups that are experimenting with different types of technology. In the marketing group, we're experimenting with all different kinds of AIs and technology because we're a little bit disconnected from the rest of the organization and can do that without making Stephen crazy, right? Crazier. Our executives are working on it.
Fair.
But this path seems to be yielding some success. And so we highly recommend it. And if there's anything that I or Michelle or Eugene can do to help you or your technical account manager, please reach out because we're eager to come alongside you with this. You can see, it looks like we're popping our poll right now. Yes, we can have that there, and we're into the Q&A section. Sorry, I wasn't ready for that to pop.
It's too quick.
I wasn't anticipating it. We've got a mountain of questions, and the chat has been so very active. So thank you, everybody. Robert Waters, you asked a question. Stephen, did we already answer that in the chat?
I have two. Robert asked two, and I'm going to ask one I'm going to answer one pre-submitted and Robert's question as well. So
okay,
everybody, the first pre-submitted question we have is it possible to prevent data collection? And the official answer is yes. They definitely say on their websites they are not collecting, storing, and training on your data. Everybody, give me a 4 in chat if you can see a future in several years where one of these companies is hacked and they were storing data. Give me a 4 if you think that's a potential. Right. Okay. Me too. I don't, and it's because I don't trust, and it's my job not to trust. Please understand that it is my job to be paranoid and be worried for y'all. That is what I do. So the chances that you can absolutely prevent all data collection, 100%. Just get off the internet forever. Right. Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon, they're all collecting your data. They're all selling your data. Now, are they collecting corporate data? No, probably not. Are they collecting personally identified information? Abso-freaking-lutely, they are doing this thing. So the truth is, that's where the policy comes in. Listen, you need to make sure that your data is classified as sensitive or high sensitive or top secret or whatever the case may be, however you want to do it in your organization, and say nothing from the finance folder ever gets put in any AI. If you're worried about that. And the truth is, yeah, they're saying that, and I really want to believe them, but I just absolutely do not at all. So, but I can't prove that. So please, OpenAI, who's clearly listening to this, don't get me for slander. I'm just worried that that's the case. So there's your deal. Is it possible to prevent data collection? Ostensibly, yes, by having a paid account. Second question we have is very similar. Is there a way to restrict or protect company IP when setting up Copilot or AI connector for a company? There is. For a connector, and Michelle and Eugene can speak more to this because they're the bigger brands on this one, you can scope connectors and you can scope permissions to say don't don't access anything in this folder. This is not something, or don't access anything on this SharePoint site, or don't connect this to this part of the database. If inside of your data source you have permissions-based filtering, you can make a connection that is filtered on those same permissions. There is actually a very good technical way to do that for a connector, but you may notice humans are not robots, so they will still it could still pull out financial information and put it into places they shouldn't. Make a policy that that's a job-changing event.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that is there's different flavors of GPT, Copilot. Copilot agents are the big one now inside of Microsoft. So instead of you asking one of these big boys exactly everything that it knows about the weather in San Diego, you can actually give it a small, specific, targeted Copilot agent where you select the knowledge sources. So it doesn't go everywhere or access everything. You can place that inside of a widget or an iframe onto a website. You could have it respond to emails that are coming in. It could have its own chat module that come up, but you get to select the knowledge sources, and it really narrows the focus. You wouldn't want, it to get creative with your HR policy that you've given it when somebody asks for what form do I have to fill out for my 401k that your HR team has to get, and they have to send it back to people, and then they have to fill out. Well, if we just give it all that information, and somebody asks that on your site in a Copilot agent, it's only going to pull and retrieve and no humans involved. Here's the information you need right then and there.
It's really good. Michelle, I got one for you, but before we do, folks, we're at the time. We were kind of chatting about it while we were going through. We're going to keep going for 5 minutes or so, but this whole thing is recorded, and so if you have a hard stop and you have to keep moving, we're sorry that we went over. Michelle, the question I got for you comes from Alan Mays, and it's is there a way to monitor the usage of a full Copilot license to see if these users are actually using the tool?
100%. It lives inside of a report inside of the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Alan, if you ping me offline, because you have my Teams, but if you ping me, I will walk you through getting access to that report. Basically, we do this internally. We'll have a manager come up and they're asking for a Copilot license for one of their reports. And we have a couple people that kind of hold the reins of that yes or no answer, and they will actually go to this report, see who's been using it, how often they've used it, when they last logged in, and try to determine if there's a license that's gone unused. Because we have to keep the license for a year, we'll move that license from that user to the user who needs a license and wants to continue to use it. So yes, 100%, and I can walk you through on how to access that.
It's really good. Okay. Chad Olson asked if you use a run-on prompt, what's the risk that you'll get a worse response, or a response that or a response that you're specifically looking for, confirmation bias? Eugene,
I've actually, Eugene, I'm going to throw one thing out here, and I have seen some things poison the well, and I saw it with Copilot pages. So we had a connector that we were testing internally, and it discussed the connector, the source of the connector, which for us is ConnectWise, right? We popped that into a loop page using Copilot pages, much as I taught in the last AI office hours. And then from that point forward, because loop is consumed as a source, we were starting to get responses back from that loop on wrong answers because we were referencing Copilot or ConnectWise, and it happened to show up in that loop. So it's a thing. You have to you kind of have to watch out for it at this point. I'm not exactly sure how to get rid of it necessarily, but the run-on sentences I haven't seen it super hallucinate just because you did a run-on sentence, but I have given feedback back to the AI of, are you sure about that response? Or no, that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for this instead, right? And that's that iteration that Eugene was talking about. Eugene, go ahead. Sorry, I stepped over you.
No problem. Pretty much the run-on, what you have to worry about is what you're telling it to do. Like if you confuse it and say you are an expert in this, and later you say you're not an expert, or you're changing it, or what you're ultimately asking out of it. Like, I'd like you to summarize and bring 3 examples back, taking into mind this, this, and this. But before you hit enter, your run-on went on and told it it's going to do different things, and they start to conflict. It doesn't know, almost like if somebody gave you unclear directions, you wouldn't know exactly what you're being asked to do. You'll answer one, but you may not answer it in the full context of what was being asked. So at least when you're telling it what you would like it to do, try to be clear. As far as additional context, it can take all of that in stride.
It's really good. All right. Robert Walters asks, do you need an account in ChatGPT or others to have a spreadsheet or document generated? I think what he means is a free account versus a paid account is probably what he's getting at.
Yeah, there are some tools out there. Once again, this comes back to models. There are some models out there that when you hit that little plus icon at the lower left-hand corner, it won't take files. So it depends on the model that you're using, and it depends on the service that you're using. But I think it was about a year ago, they started adding in the ability to add content like file types and stuff like that into at least at the time, I think it was 4.0 before it was deprecated. So it depends on those. But as far as I'm aware, you can do those directly today. It just may limit the information or the type of data that you're using.
What about getting it out of there, though? Like if you ask it to build a chart, do you have to have an account connected to it?
No, it'll usually give that back to you, and you could give it follow-up prompts, and I've done this a lot. Hey, when you're satisfied with the markdown language that it gives you could say, give me this as a downloadable PDF or a Word document or something, or an Excel file. And it'll give you a little link that you could click, and then you could take it offline to work. So getting it back, no problem. As a matter of fact, prompt it for that. Say, I'd like this in an Excel file to work offline, or bring this up in a canvas. Once again, we could do this as well. Canvas mode allows you to do live interactions with a editable document. You could highlight certain sections and tell it, hey, change this, and it'll only change something in that section. Imagine having a coach over your shoulder as you're in a Word document.
That sounds like a good topic for a webinar, maybe next one.
Yep. And just like that, Canvas is good for editing content. There are good coding ones as well. Claude and some of the others.
We don't want to make Stephen sick. Not with the coding stuff.
I think that it's so easy for this to spaghetti off into so many other different things, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that we are never going to run out of content ever.
And we'll just AI generate more if we need to.
We'll just keep doing more.
Fair.
Let's see, Vanessa, I think we're going to make this one our last question, folks. There's so many questions. We'll make sure that we get answers to all the questions that folks have asked and get it to you, and then we'll publish it someplace so that everyone can see it. And maybe we'll get our act together by the next office hours and be able to devote some real time to Q&A, because I know it's a struggle. There's just so much to share with you. Last question comes from Vanessa McCann. How do you check if a chart is accurate and doesn't contain hallucinations?
I'll take this one at least to start. So all of the GPTs generally come back with a footnote or a reference of where they got the information at. And those are usually clickable links at the bottom of the response to go validate the information. If it's a public website, it will take you to the website that it garnered the information from. If it's business data, it's not necessarily going to have a direct link, say, into your accounting software to show you the financials from last year where it pulled those numbers from. So as Stephen mentioned, having somebody who's knowledgeable about the type of information that you're looking at to eyeball it and validate it, that it looks correct, and even possibly like doing line by line or spot checking, vetting. We do this in reporting all the time. We pull a report together and we aggregate numbers, and then we go and take that number apart and figure out, is this right? Is this showing up the same way in another system? So same principle as with the footnotes, and you will get footnotes and references, but having somebody who knows and has an expectation of what the output should look like is important when you're doing that human review.
It's really good. Thanks, Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's move over to the next slide. Our next office hours is going to be September 11th, I believe. If I'm still looking at the Q&A slide. There we go. Yep, September 11th. And I know that's kind of an infamous date, but that's how it shook out. If you would like to just have us sign you up for that, just say yes in the survey there, and we will be happy to do that for you. You can also hit the QR code or check it out that way. The other office hours that you're not going to want to miss is going to be in August 7th. It's Stephen Hicks will have another new topic about cybersecurity. This is where he talks to risk holders about what he's seeing out there and what he's doing about it at Endsight, and by extension, what you should be thinking about doing. Again, question number 2, if you want us to just sign you up for that, we'll be happy to do that. With that, folks, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you found some value out of the time we got to spend together, and we will look forward to talking to some of you very soon, we hope, and others, we will look forward to seeing you hopefully in the next office hours. Michelle, Eugene, Stephen, K-Rock, Thank you for your efforts. We really, it's really remarkable to have this kind of brain trust. So you guys have a good one. We'll see y'all later.
Thanks all.
Bill.
Have a good rest
Thanks,
of your day.
Jason.